Hello, I'm Andy King. I'm the technical editor of Good Woodworking magazine, and I'm going to show you how to be sharpening saws for getwoodworking.com. Okay, so when you come onto your smaller saws like this Dovetail saw, for argument's sakes, what you find now is the teeth are so small that it's very difficult to pick up where you've actually been with the file, especially if you find one that's already been filed recently. Because the shine's still in the gullets, if you need to go back and touch it in again, you can't see very easily where you've been. Now these help. This is a lens. Now these are sold on my hobby store, if I remember rightly. I think there's a set that's very similar to these. And the idea being is it just magnifies the area around the teeth, and it works on the focal ranges round about sort of 10 to 12 inches, which is just right for sharpening the saw. You don't want to be sort of right down there. You don't want to be right back here. You need to be close enough to see what you're doing. But also, once you've got past the stage you need to see the teeth, if you just touch the tops in with a pen, with a marker, what that gives you then is an indication of where you've been with the file and what needs to be worked. Now you can do the same thing here, is touch this all into the gullets, because it's the gullet you need to be working as much as the top. So once you've done that and you've got a uniform amount of ink in everywhere, you can then go to the stage of putting it back into the tool chops in there, and once it's in, you do the same principle again as before. You give it a very light dressing. It will take the tops of that ink back off, but a very, very light top now. What that will do, gives you every single tooth now you can see, because you take the ink right the way back off. So you can now see where the work needs to be done on each tooth, but also there's ink remaining in the gullets. So as you start to file, you know full well that you can see where you've been, because you've taken it out and all you're leaving is bright metal this end, and you can see exactly what tooth's been worked. So you can see the principle again of which tooth needs work on which side, and also whether you've taken that gullet out or not, whether you've actually worked that tooth, you can see it a lot easier. With a Dovetail saw now, you've got the tendency at the moment is for them to be rip filed. It's always been the way, I think, in that respect. You tend to find it now on tenon saws as well. A lot of them are coming in rip filed as well. But it's an easier principle, because it goes back to the way I was showing you on the other saw. You work from one face. You don't need to start spinning the saw end for end. It really is just a matter of controlling the pitch of the file, and then simply running it through every saw, every tooth, and just looking and seeing which piece needs the work. Again, as before. And you see it on a bigger file, what you're trying to control is the pitch of the tooth on here. Basically, that's the bit that corresponds to what is the face of the tooth. So as you're working, the more upright that is, it obviously corresponds to the upright of the tooth. So on a rip file, the tendency is for that face there, on the back of the tooth is there, the face of the tooth is there, that's 90 degrees normally. But you tend to find on a Dovetail saw especially, you normally start a Dovetail saw with the saw actually flat on the work. You don't start like that. The tendency is to start like that. It gives you a better track on the cut. But the problem you've got now is you've got a lot of teeth in contact with the work. It's on end grain as well. So those teeth now, being chisel points as they are digging straight away. So you're trying to push against it, and it's sometimes difficult to get to start. By knocking the angle of that tooth back a little bit, so instead of being at 90 degrees on the front of the tooth, if you just knock it back a little bit, 5 degrees or a little bit more maybe, that's just enough now to take the aggressiveness off that tooth. So when you actually start to cut, it will start to track a little bit easier on the front of the cut. It's something I always do. You'll find the manufacturers don't at the moment. The only one that does actually do it at the moment is the Lee Valley one, or the Veritas one, should I say. That one is knocked back by a few degrees, just enough, and it is surprising what a difference that does make when you actually start to track a cut first off. Find the angle you want, so you work on, again, sort of 85 degrees, wherever, but this time you're just actually filing right the way through every tooth. So you're just filing through like that, and the idea being is it's a lot easier. You're just doing it all from one side. Everything stays at 90 degrees. All you're controlling now is the rake of the tooth itself, the pitch there. That's all you're controlling. There's no worry about that, about the bevel of the tooth itself or the rake. So all you're trying to do is just control the file and just keep it to the angle you need for the front face of that tooth. Again, looking at your gullets, again, looking at your points and looking to bring in the point where it needs it and dropping that gullet down where it needs it as well. Chances are, on a dovetail saw, you'd like to think it shouldn't take that much work, because invariably these things never get sharpened very often.